Okay, so what I want to do is show you a really quick strategy on the shooting star, and hopefully it'll enhance your trading. So let's do a quick screen share. So let me do this here. Where is it? There we go. Okay, so this is US 30. Since we've been trading the US 30, I think I could share with you guys the strategy on US 30, but you could pretty much find this strategy on any pair that you trade with. And this is the monthly. You guys already know that I like to do a top-down analysis, but we're going to go down to the lower time frames so we can analyze these different candles, because we all know that within each time session, is a series of candles that develop. Okay, so but looking at the overall direction of the US 30 based on the monthly, um, we can see. Let's open this up a little bit. Try to determine what direction the market's going.
Why do
Say it again.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
I was mumbling.
no worries. Okay, so we see my psychological level is pretty much looking at my moving averages. Okay, my green line is what I really focus on to tell me what direction the market's going. So you can see it's sloping downward, right? And then we see like a doji candle right here. Right there, there's a doji candle. Okay. So usually a doji candle tells us a reversal, right? But it continued to go down on this candle. And then the reversal started here, but it didn't close above this line. Then on the next one, it shot through it and then came back down. So based on this green moving average, looks like it wants to go back down. And it also looks like a shooting star. So this is what I really wanted to share with you guys. When you see a long wick like this and a body at the bottom, is typically a shooting star. Okay. And it'll tend to go in that direction when you see a shooting star. So let me go down to the weekly and see what's going on. You'll notice that I have another indicator on here, and it's called a volume indicator. This is the gray stuff you see over here. It tells you where the volume is uh, given on based on market price. Where's all the volume? And you'll see that come into play as I go down to the lower time frame. And you'll notice that whenever it peaks out like this, you'll notice that that's where a lot of liquidity is. That's where a lot of people are buying and selling. So this is a good tool to have um, as far as an indicator. And let me just show you where you can find that indicator. If you go to indicators, I think I've already started. So let me see. Volume profile is what it's called by KV4 Coins. He's got over 7,495 people using the indicator. So definitely take a snapshot of that or pause the video so you guys can find that volume profile. So you just click over here, type in volume profile. As you can see, it's right here. I've already put a star on it and make it one of my favorites. It's by KV4 Coins. And you could use that on your charts and see what all the volume and liquidity is happening. It's a good tool to have. Okay. So that's the daily. And as you can see, you have a downward trend happening here. Okay. With this huge bearish engulfing. Okay. Which looked like a shooting star on the monthly, right? So we already know that, hey, it's bearish. Go down to the 4-hour and we see the same thing happening. Continue to ride downward. That's why I start from the top down, because look at that. When you go down to the lower time frames, you'll notice it's going in your direction. So we look for entries in the 15-minute, okay, or the 5-minute, either or. So if you like to put support and resistance levels on your chart, by all means, go ahead and do that, because you want to buy at support, sell at resistance. So we're going to go with this here. Okay, but what I want to look for is any type of shooting star. So I'm going to look left just to see if I can identify any other shooting stars and show you a pattern of such sorts. So I'm going to hide everything. So we should be on the 15-minute. Yes. And look at that. This is a huge downward pull, a huge downward trend. Okay. So we want to go with the trend and not go against it. But what I want to do is look left and show you a series of patterns to see if I could see any other shooting star. Because when you start seeing shooting stars, you'll notice a pattern. So shooting stars usually tend to be at the top of a trend, right? So we look at the top of a trend to see if we can find any shooting stars. It's a good way to just back test to see if we see any shooting stars. Okay, so here's one right here. Let's mark it. I want you guys to train your eye to see these shooting stars. There's one right there. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
There's one right there. So shooting star, right? You tried to pull up. It got exhausted because the seller started to pull it back down. Okay, it's actually right here, an uptrend, right? The buyers tried to pull it up, right? But the sellers kicked in and said, no, we're going to push it down. And then what do you have? You have this pattern occurring on the bottom, right? So you had a huge pull down to the bottom, okay? A huge bearish engulfing right here. But then you have that doji that pretty much puts the brakes on everything, right? And all of a sudden, it started to pull back up, right? So that's one shooting star. So whenever you see a shooting star at the top, prepare. Here's another one. You see how it's becoming crystal clear as far as finding shooting stars. So back test it, mark up all your shooting stars, and just take a look at the next candle. If it's a bearish candle, it's going to pull down like it just did here. Okay, let's try to find another one. This is the hunter in it, so it's because we're Forex hunters, right? We look for things in the market to set our traps, and the shooting star is what we really want to look for. Here's another one, right? So now you know what to look for when it comes to shooting stars. It happens at the top right? You see a shooting star, you wait for the next candle, which is bearish, and then it starts to pull back down, okay? And of course, you always want to put your support resistance levels to make sure, because when trading a shooting star, you want to make sure that you set your stop loss above it, somewhere, anywhere, a couple of pips above, or percentage above, or 1-to-2 ratio, whatever the case is. So you want to make sure it's above it, right? Because if you had to put your support, your stop loss right there, right? Your stop loss right there. It really never really touched your stop loss until it got over, way over. It could have been a profit this whole time. So it's another way to look at how, looking at your trades to say, hey, as a Forex hunter, your trap is the shooting star, right? And here's another one. So we'll notice that if you backtest this and you anticipate the shooting stars happening from an uptrend, it's really indicating a reversal, right? A reversal of that uptrend. That's another one right there. So we're going to continue our hunt for more. So do you feel that you guys can do the same exercise? You're muted, I can't hear you.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, both of you guys.
Well, I'm just, yes. I'm just listening, taking mental notes and really studying your chart.
Yeah, because these shooting stars are pretty much, once you start identifying them and marking them up, when it starts to happen on a live trade, you can anticipate a downward movement, right?
Yes.
Because we're looking for shooting stars on the top of a trend, trend, right? And we're looking for the wick to be like this, right? A long wick with a body at the bottom. That's a shooting star. Now this one is interesting because this one, if you would have traded this one and put your stop loss there, you probably would have got stopped out on this one. You see what I'm saying? But if you would have traded this one on this candle, you would have got a couple of pips on these on the downward trend here. But you see there's a hammer here, and this is a bullish engulfing. This is bullish. This is bigger than this candle based on where it closed, right? And then you see a hammer here, but then there's a fake out because the hammer says it's going down. And then this particular candle here is a gravestone, right? And you know why we call that a gravestone? Because if I were, there's a, if you guys could draw a gravestone on it, it looks like a gravestone by putting an arch above it. If you put an arch on there, it looks like a gravestone. But whenever you see a gravestone and a bearish candle open below the gravestone, it's going to go in that direction. Okay. So this is another good candle to pay attention to, which they're called gravestones. Okay. All right. So we're still looking for shooting stars. And another one. And this is why we backtest. We backtest to see, patterns, right? Patterns of shooting stars. And every time we see one, I mean, is it foolproof? No, because there are always going to be fake outs, right? that's where we put our stop losses so that if we get faked out, we don't blow our account. That's why money management is really important when trading. Place your stop losses. But when you see an uptrend and it gets exhausted on the top, and she is a shooting star, you want to anticipate a reversal. Okay, anticipate that reversal. And look what we see here. Okay, if I put this up, we see another one right here. And you just mark up your charts, mark it up. And you can see all I'm doing is marking it up. And every time I mark it up, what happens? There's a reversal, right? Have you noticed that? There's a reversal. Even if I put my arrow on it and put it and go like this, look at this. All this was a downtrend based on that shooting star. Okay, you could have caught all these pips on the way down, right? Or a percentage of. If you did like a ratio, let's put our ratio tool on here. Short position, got in on this candle, and we did like maybe 1 to 2, 1 to 2, right? Or 1 to 2. It says, hey, my stop loss is on top, which is right here. My take profit is on the bottom, which is right here. And look at that. It would have definitely hit your take profit because you would have been on this trade based on a shooting star. You got in on the next candle, the candle afterwards, because you always want to wait for a retouch, right? So either you get on the next candle next to it or you wait for the next candle after that, right? And you got in, right? If you open this up, you'll notice that it kind of retouched, went back up and touched this line here, right? Which you can call the resistance line. And based on the 1 to 2, right? Which is right there. On this candle is when you would have grabbed your profits because it hit your TP right here, okay? Which is a nice profit, right? So that was a 1 to 2 ratio. Okay, so you could do ratios, you could do pips. Okay, we're going to continue to find shooting stars. I mean, you could look at this one and say, this could be one right here, right here. Right, look what it did. But we're not going to mark that up because it doesn't look like 100% of a shooting star. It's going to have a long wick on top, somewhat of a long wick anyway. And see another one right here. Okay, and look what happened. Bam. The direction of that was a downward down pull right here. All right. And then when you're doing this, after you finish doing your back testing, go forward, right? Because I'm gonna do one more shooting star. I think you guys get the gist now. Do one more shooting star, which is right here. Look at this. Nice juicy one. This looks delicious. Never mind my words. But look at this. It's a shooting star, but right before that shooting star was a hammer. So what does that tell you? Get ready for a downward pull, right? That's exactly what it did, right? Because if you put your arrow, look at all of this. Bam. Can't make it up. Okay. Then you after you've done all this, you mark it. You say there's 1, there's 2. We saw a bunch of 3. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, you know, it looks pretty interesting. Right, so 1, 2, 3, and all these shooting stars, what did it show? It just gave you an indication that's going to pull lower. Look at this. We mark this one up and we put an arrow on it from here to here. Look at all these. Wow. Look at this from here to here. From here to here. So you can create a trading strategy or add it to your trading strategy, right? Based on shooting stars. And if you just wait on shooting stars, I mean, you're not going to have 100% success rate, but so far, the ones I identified were pretty on point, right? And there was a bunch of them on the US 30 based on the 15-minute chart, right? You can identify these shooting stars on every time frame, not just the 15-minute. It'll happen on every time frame. The higher time frames, the lower time frames. Just identify the shooting star. And once you see it, set your trap. Set your traps. It says, hey, the next candle or the candle after that, I'll place a trade and see what happens. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys this week. It's called the shooting star strategy. I think is a really, really good strategy to just pay attention to. Now you know when it happens, you could set your trap. Because as hunters, Forex hunters, we set traps. Okay, we set traps. We don't chase the market. We set our traps and let the market fall into the trap. And once it falls into the trap, you know, go ahead and cash it in. Make sense? All right. So any questions or concerns before I stop the recording?
All sounds good.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording.